Hey there, how there, ho there. It's Jeff Cutter Diamond welcoming you to another Cutter Top 10. And this time we're doing the top 10 NFL teams of all time. Sporting my famous Tom Brady jersey on this couch and all that. So that's why you have the number 12 on my shoulders and all that. So, what makes a good NFL team great? Well, a team that produces well in the regular season and then in the postseason, too, as I burp. So these 10 NFL teams are great and all that. Now the rule of thumb when I talk about, the top 10 NFL, NHL, NBA, MLB teams and a lot of other things is that when I do the top 10 that you have to win your championship and all that. Like this format like I can give you like five great teams that never won the championship, but I think the greatest team to never win a championship is a little bit of bias, of course, is the 2007 New England Patriots. And the fact of the matter is that, yeah, we went 16-0. We went to the Super Bowl against the Giants. Basically, Pascal Burris got the touchdown catch and should have gotten Eli on 3rd and 5, or at least knocked the pass away from David Tyree. But, that happened and it just stung heavily. Of course, the 98 Vikings and the 2015 Carolina Panthers are also on this list. Now, to note, if you're not like football literate, I know a lot of people are, is that when I say the 1998 Minnesota Vikings, I mean that the Vikings team that went to into the 99 playoffs. They lost in the 99 playoff. They lost in the playoffs in 1999. So, when I talked about the Super Bowls happening and all that, that's the season in which they started and all that. All right, so let's do the countdown. Oh, I thought I clicked it. All right, so number 10 is the Legion of Boom, the 2013 Seattle Seahawks. So they had a great defense. Their offense was good. I mean, Russell Wilson was a pretty good quarterback, and Marshawn Lynch could run the ball, and he was pretty good. Betcha Buffalo was upset getting rid of him. Nevertheless, Seattle was like many other teams on this list, a great defense and all that. Anchored by Richard Sherman, Earl Thomas, and Cam Chancellor, they were just offensively great. They took care of the Niners in the NFC title game, in which Sherman basically went off on a tangent on Fox, like with Aaron Andrews saying, "Don't you ever come with your sorry ass receiver," and that was Michael Crabtree. Seattle would take on Peyton Manning and the Denver Broncos and crush them into oblivion. Well, the Denver Broncos 1 year prior were supposed to be a great team to go to the Super Bowl, but fell in double overtime to the Baltimore Ravens. Nevertheless, Denver was coming back, and Peyton freaking Manning. But what the frick happens? Well, he gets blasted. Seattle wins 43-8, one of the largest victories in Super Bowl history. And the fact of the matter is that, they held the Broncos to under double digits. So, yeah, I remember watching the Super Bowl, which would be Super Bowl 48. When I was working at Target, we had a TV and all that. And during my break, I got to watch the Super Bowl. And I watched the Seahawks put up a clinic and all that on their defense. I think it was Malcolm Smith who ran one back for a touchdown, and I got to see it. But yeah, the Seahawks, there was no freaking way that they were going to lose to the Broncos. Number 9, oops, sorry. Yeah, number 9 is the greatest show on turf, the 1999 St. Louis Rams. The Rams had great offense and all that. Dick Vermeil was a decent head coach and all that for both the Eagles and UCLA before he came to the Rams. And they had some dramatics. The massive dramatic was in the preseason, and a lot of people say preseason doesn't really care. Well, the 99 Rams say, you know nothing. So what ends up happening is that Trent Green, who was signed to be the number one quarterback, went down with an injury and practically was out for the year. So they had to trust this guy from Northern Iowa who played the Arena Football League. He played in NFL Europe, and he also was a overnight grocery clerk at Hy-Vee. So Kurt Warner, rising from obscurity, did his job, and somehow, in some way, the Rams produced 13 wins. And Dick Vermeil says, "We will rally behind Kurt Warner," and it worked. And then they got a great running attack after the Colts traded Marshall Faulk to the Rams. So the Rams got Marshall Faulk. The Colts were high on getting a running back in the '99 draft, and they got Edgerrin James, who wasn't that bad. He was pretty good. But yeah, the Rams got Marshall Faulk, the West Coast offense, like he could run and catch passes. And then a great trio of receivers: Isaac Bruce, Asa Hakeem, and Torrey Holt. But the weird thing was in the NFC Championship game against the Bucks, Tampa's tough defense held them to 11 points. The good news for the Rams was that they gave up only 6 points. And the winning touchdown, not by Bruce, not by Holt, not by Hakeem, or even Falk, by some guy by the name of Ricky Prohl. That's right, Ricky Prohl was the hero. The Rams averaged 32 points per game and took on those pesky Tennessee Titans who upset Jacksonville in the AFC title game, but the Titans were close. The Rams were up 16-0, almost choked it, and then scored late on a touchdown by Isaac Bruce. And then Steve McNair led the team down the field, and then Dyson stretched that ball. Oh, across the line. Nope, he missed the goal line. Thanks to Mike. Oh, man. Mike Jones. Such a generic name. All right. Number 8 is Madden time. Johnny Madden and the 76 Oakland Raiders. They were rugged, rebellious, and relentless. Oakland played, well, this was, of course, one of the first few entries that don't play a 16-game season. They played 14 games back then. They were 13-1, Oakland was. They powered through the playoffs. They took care of the New England Patriots in a famous game in which the Patriots almost upset the Raiders, but Ray Sugarbear Hamilton was called for a questionable roughing the passer penalty, and the Raiders won that game. The Raiders took on the Minnesota Vikings and sent the Vikings to their fourth Super Bowl loss with a 32-14 triumph. Ken Stabler, the snake at quarterback, great running back Mark Van Egan, and Fred Blandikoff, sticky fingers as they call him, and wide receiver, and the bruising defense featuring Jack Tatum and Ted Hendricks. And no, this was before Jack Tatum became public enemy number one by hurting Darryl Stingley. So yeah, and Hendricks, and then oh man, Willie Brown with that 70+ yard pick 6 in the Super Bowl against the Vikings and Fran Tarkenton. John Madden was carried off the field, and it was great to see John Madden become a great guy and not just a video game name. The commitment to excellence. Number 7 on the list is the 1992 Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys were in a rebuilding mode. In the early 80s, they got to 3 straight NFC title games, but just couldn't finish the job. They were victimized by the catch by Dwight Clark. But people forget about that Dallas Cowboys thing. What ends up happening is they people forget about the catch was that that was when they had a chance to win, but they didn't. So anyway, Dallas went rebuilding in the 80s. They had to trade away key pieces like Herschel Walker away to the Vikings for draft picks and players. And, they made all those draft picks, traded those draft picks for other draft picks, and, the nucleus was born. Troy Aikman was not great in his first season in 1989, but hey, Dallas wasn't that good either. They went from 1-15 to 13-3 in the span of 3 years. Emmitt Smith was a great running back pickup from the University of Florida. Michael Irvin, great guy from Miami. They had some great defenses too. So they won 13 games and looked strong and would take on the Buffalo Bills in the Super Bowl and crush them 52-17. Super Bowl 27 was no contest. It didn't help that Jim Kelly of the Bills was hurt throughout much of the game and all that. But yeah, it was great. The offense was together, the defense clicked, and Leon Lett could have given Dallas the record for most points in a Super Bowl, but he just had to showboat. Anyway, the youth, speed, and swagger ushered in a new era of supremacy, and the Cowboys will win the next season against Buffalo, this time by less. But hey, you know what? A win's a win. Number 6 is the 1984 San Francisco 49ers. And How good were they? They were the first team to go 15-1. The first team to win 15 games in the regular season. I know a lot of teams in the 70s won 14 games. Well, one team that went 14-0, you probably know who that is. But with a 16 game schedule, this was the first team to get to 15. Not the last. But anyway, the 84 Niners were huge. Joe Montana was getting into his stuff. Tom Rathman was a good player. I think, no, Roger Craig, excuse me, was the running back who could also be like a Marshall Faulk type, could catch passes and run yardage. And John Taylor and Dwight Clark were good wide receivers. This was before Jerry Rice came in the league. But the Niners had a decent defense and they rolled through, beating Dan Marino and the Miami Dolphins in Super Bowl 19 and ruining Marino's only chance at the Super Bowl crown. Number 5 is the 1962 Green Bay Packers. I know it's cheating because it's not a Super Bowl team, but the 62 Packers were great and all that. They were one of the best NFL teams of all time. Well, pre-Super Bowl. The Super Bowl started in 1967, if you must know. So anyhow, Lombardi's masterpiece happened. The team went 13-1, lost a fluke game in Detroit, but they had the hard-nosed defense with Ray Nitschke and Herb Adderley and had a great offensive line like Bill Curry. And their offense had Bart Starr at QB, John Taylor at running back. They took care of the Giants in the NFL title game, and basically the two-headed off at running backs of Taylor and Hornung did the job. And the fact is, the 62 Packers are pretty good. You could also say that the 1968 Baltimore Colts was a pretty good team, but they, like the 2007 Patriots, just couldn't finish the job. And number 4 on the list is another Niners team, but this time it's the 1989 Niners. So Bill Walsh was a great head coach and then decided to quit after 1989 because he wanted to retire on top, and he did in Super Bowl 23 when Montana threw the Taylor for the touchdown. They had offensive efficiency and defensive discipline. And then George Seifert got to take over the team and it looked good. Joe Montana had an MVP season. Jerry Rice was still Jerry freaking Rice. The defense worked with Charlie Haley and Ronnie Lott. Rathman was also running back with Roger Craig. They looked pretty good, especially in Super Bowl 24, taking care of the Broncos 55-10. It's the largest margin of victory in Super Bowl history to this day. John Elway just wasn't ready, and the Niners were ready. Roger Craig getting 3 touchdowns in that game. I think Jerry Rice got 3 touchdowns in that game. But yeah, the Niners were just fantastic and all that. Bill Walsh gave George Seifert the keys to the car, and it worked. A lot of people are going to be upset, well, or happy that there's no Patriots team on this list. I couldn't find like a super Patriots team. The 2001 Patriots team that won the Super Bowl the first time, well, you know, they were just ragtag and all that. Well, I could also have said the 2003 Patriots, but you would probably think I had bias. Regardless, number 3 is the 1978 Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steel Curtain. The late 70s Steelers looked good. 4 Super Bowls in a span of 6 years. Something not even the Patriots could do, because the Patriots won the Super Bowl in 2002, 2004, 2005. 2015, 2017, and 2019. So yeah, New England didn't even have that mark. Anyway, Pittsburgh had some great teams in the 70s. The 78 squad was huge. They were 14-2. Terry Bradshaw could throw the ball. Lynn Swann could catch the ball. Franco Harris and Rocky Bleier in the backfield was fantastic. Well, of course, you can't forget about John Stallworth at wide receiver too. On the defense, Joe Green, Jack Lambert, and Mel Blount had a suffocating defense. Although they only won by 4 points in Super Bowl 13, which is one of the greatest Super Bowls of all time, because it pitted Pittsburgh and Dallas trying to become the first franchise to get to 4 Super Bowls. I think they both had 3 titles at the same time. But yeah, it was huge. Super Bowl 13 had all the Hall of Famers and all that. And yes, it is famous for Jackie Smith's missed catch and all that. And Fern Lundquist saying, "Oh, bless his heart, he's got to be the sickest man in America." So anyway, yeah, that was a great Super Bowl 13. Number 2 is the 1985 Chicago Bears. The 85 Bears had a swagger to them. They had the 46 defense thanks to defensive coordinator Buddy Ryan. And what was weird is before the playoffs even started, they released their song, the Super Bowl Shuffle, and all that. And it was like, that is swagger and all that. It could have all gone for shit if they hadn't been well in the playoffs. The 85 Bears were 15-1, becoming the second team to hit that mark. But their only loss was to the Miami Dolphins, who were trying to prevent the Bears of joining their cousins from 13 years ago to be undefeated. But yeah, the Bears were 15-1. They looked pretty good, even though Jim McMahon was not as effective as he really should be. And Walter Payton was just, he was Mr. Bear of all that. Walter Payton was an icon. Their wide receivers were not really that bad. Willie Galt and Dennis McKinnon are underrated, I think. The Bears defense just looked good. Richard Dent, so woo, because he's a University of Arkansas alum. Sorry, I had to do that. Willie Refrigerator Perry, Mike Singletary, I would like to say Otis Wilson. Yeah, Dave Jurson, Gary Fenchek, um, Steve McMichael. Great players and all that. Yes, the Bears crushed the New England Patriots in Super Bowl 20, 46-10. And you'd be thinking, well, that sucks as a Patriots fan. It does, but this happened in 1986. I was only what was I? I was only 9 months old. I wouldn't know about the New England Patriots and all that. And my parents never had me be a New England Patriots fan. I actually was a Dallas Cowboys supporter, then went to the St. Louis Rams, and then went to the Patriots once they won the Super Bowl in 2002 and stayed with them. But nevertheless, the 1985 Bears, you had that 46-10 demolition in which Walter Payton should have gotten a touchdown but didn't. It was William the Refrigerator Perry scoring a touchdown. But yeah, that defense worked. But what's even more impressive is the Bears' playoff run against the Giants, the Rams, and the Patriots. The game against the Giants in the divisional round was famous because Sean Landeta muffed a punt and Sean Gale managed to get it in the end zone for a defensive touchdown. And also, the Bears used their defense and crushed Dieter Brock, former CFLer, who played for the LA Rams in the NFC title game, and all that. But the weird thing is, how many points did the Giants score on the Bears? 0. How many points did the Rams score on the Bears? 0. How many points did the Patriots score? 10. So they gave up 10 points in 3 playoff games. Not even the Ravens in 2001 and 2013 could do that. Or 2013 could do that. Not even like the Seattle Seahawks legend of Boom did that. Much playoff dominance. It was all the Bears. And not even the number one team on this list could do that in the playoffs, give up 10 points. They gave up more than 10 points in the playoffs. Anyway, number one is, of course, the flawless, undefeated 1972 Miami Dolphins. They were flawless. 14-0 in the regular season, 3 playoff games, 17-0. Boom, they had it. They had it made in the shade. Don Shula knew how to coach. They had the three-headed running attack of Larry Sonka, Murky Morris, and Jim Kick. Their wide receivers were decent and all that. Too bad I can't remember what. Oh, Paul Warfield, who came over from the Browns. Bob Greasy was a good quarterback, and then by season 5, he got hurt. And everyone thought that the Dolphins were going to lose with their backup quarterback, Earl the Pearl Morrell. But Earl Morrow knew what to do. He was actually under Don Shula when Shula was coach of the Baltimore Colts in 1968 when they went to the Super Bowl. When they went to Super Bowl III, he was the quarterback because Johnny Unitas got hurt. People forgot all about it, and he made a massive comeback and helped the Dolphins win week after week after week. The defense had the no-name defense, although I know only one name off the top of my head. Nick Budacuti, and I think Manny Fernandez too. Nevertheless, the Dolphins had a great defense and all that. They took care of the Pittsburgh Steelers, who famously won the Immaculate Reception game. Well, that game was the AFC title game when Miami beat Pittsburgh. And then took on Washington in Super Bowl 7. People actually picked Washington as the favorites to win, which is stupid. I mean, the Dolphins were undefeated. They think that the AFC was just full of no names. And remember, Pittsburgh wasn't really a franchise to be trusted until the Immaculate Reception that started the whole thing. And the fact is that, you know, the Dolphins did it. That sure that the 7 points by Washington in the Super Bowl worked thanks to Gary Premian deciding to try to flip a pass downfield instead of falling on the ball after the blocked field goal. But fortunately, the Dolphins went 14-7, so that's all there was to it. So I fit it. So anyway, thanks for watching this whole look at the top 10 NFL teams of all time. You know, the top 10 Super Bowl winning teams of all time, if you will. But anyway, yeah, time will tell if any team is going to be as good as that. Not even Patrick Mahomes and his Merry Bandits for the Chiefs have done that. But anyway, that's all I got. I'm Jeff Diamond. Adieu.